locally identified need. It helps us ensure that there is adequate infrastructure to support development and policies in the plan that do that. On climate change, it helps us to mitigate the extent of climate change, but as I say, we recognise this is moving really quickly and that we may need to take another look at that quite soon. But I'm quite sure the policies in the plan at the moment take us a lot further than the policies we've had in the past. On the natural environment, we have policies to safeguard the environment, but also manage natural resources. And on heritage and placemaking, we have policies to help create successful places that provide the quality of environment and enable the excellent quality of life that we're so used to in this district. Without it, and the Chief Executive touched on it a little bit there, we face speculative and uncontrolled development, not just in terms of the location of where those houses go, but on the quality and type of housing that we see as well. Which is why I want to bring the focus a little bit to the policies, the quality, but also the reasons why we need a local plan in the first place. And I think you've probably heard me say these things before, but it's worth repeating them. The plan, alongside the Council's economic growth strategy, have the potential to resolve some serious problems that we have in our district. Now, our district is wonderful, I think we all agree that, but there are some problems. Our young people can't afford to buy a house here. When I last looked at the figures, our house prices were over 30% higher than the North Yorkshire average, and even higher than that over the national average. It is beyond most of the people who grow up in our district to be able to buy a house here. We lose a lot of young people to university towns and cities, and when they're graduated, even on good salaries, they can't afford to return. And those who complete their education here, at one of our local providers, they find themselves living with their parents long past the point at which they'd like to become independent. An increase in the supply of good quality smaller market houses across our district will help address this. Commuters, as we all know, are a major source of congestion on our roads, and I appreciate that when I say this, people don't believe me that the local plan can help address congestion, but bear with me a moment. We have a very high proportion of local traffic in Harrogate and Knaresborough particularly, but outside of those towns too, which need addressing, and commuters are the issue. I'm going to generalise quite a bit, but people who can't afford to live here commute daily to higher paid jobs in cities like Leeds and York, and the less wealthy people working out in our very large tourism and hospitality sector commute daily from cheaper housing areas in like those cities, Leeds and York. If you take a look at the A61 and the A59 in the morning and afternoon, if we prove that point, there is a big exchange of people in and out of our district, and one of the reasons why is because there isn't a good supply of good quality smaller market homes to help the people who work here to live here too, and the local plan should address that. Similarly, we suffer badly from poor air quality because of that congestion, because of stationary traffic. It's caused by local and commuter cars queuing at busy junctions, and I can't pretend that the local plan can resolve that entirely. It's not the only solution, but it will help if we provide some more good quality smaller homes for people. Many of our villages have seen services decline, bus services, pubs, post offices, community centres, etc. If fewer young people and families can afford to live in our villages, then the services will decline too. Across much of the local plan, we see proportionate developments in villages, which will help revitalise and support rural centres, bringing investment into facilities alongside more people to use them. two more points. I think the first, that there are thousands of people on the housing waiting list locally. These are people in temporary or unsuitable accommodation, people who need affordable homes here. The local plan brings with it a policy of 40% affordable housing, defined as housing for those who cannot afford to buy or rent at the market value. They're delivered through registered providers like housing associations or through the council directly. We have a really, really good record of achieving close to the 40% thanks to a dedicated and I think tenacious, probably the word, team of housing officers. Working on percentages, I think it stands to reason that whilst our overall supply of housing is low, the supply of affordable housing is low, but if we increase the first, we increase the second too. And finally, I think local businesses here struggle to recruit staff. I've outlined the reasons people can't afford to live here, and in a lot of cases can't afford to travel here either. Businesses therefore don't stay in our district and they relocate. So we need to do something about that, and the allocation of employment land in the plan alongside the housing policies help to do that too. I think most people recognise that these are problems that we see every day. I think most people recognise that an increase in the supply of housing will help, and we're keen to address that issue. I think local politicians have done this for decades. Really proud to be here with this administration, and having worked with colleagues in the opposition as well. We're finally working for young people, we're reducing congestion, we're tackling air quality, we're addressing homelessness, we're supporting businesses. Now, I think the district accepts that we need more houses, but often that they should be built over there. Some people are NIMBYs. I think that's an entirely understandable position.
Councillor Burnley, can I ask you to sum up now, because you have your own allocated time?
I'm talking quite a lot, aren't I? As the plan has progressed, it's gathered strength. We've already been successful in appeals against speculative applications that we wouldn't have if the plan hadn't been submitted, inspected and found sound. We're on the verge of adopting it. I would encourage you to do so. And I was going to say more, but time's up and my colleagues can make my reply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's been proposed. Councillor Cooper, I understand you might be seconding it?
I'll second it and reserve the right to speak later in the debate, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Therefore, it's been proposed and seconded. Is there any debate? Councillor Willoughby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So, Mr. Mayor, there was just a question of do we deal with the amendment, but we will debate the motion first and then we will go to the amendment. Once the debate on the substantive motion is concluded.
Thank you. Councillor Willoughby.
Thank you very much. I will be supporting the local plan this evening because as a Knaresborough councillor, I've seen what happens when you don't have a local plan in place. Knaresborough has suffered massively from speculative housing developments which nobody wanted in the wrong places, and this is purely because there was no local plan in place. However, I must put down a marker and say that K25, which is the Highfield Farm development, strongly has my objections. That is one development too far. I would have objected, well I have objected all the way through to Vance Farm, because it felt that 600 houses on the east of Knaresborough was just too much. So to now extend that to 1,000 houses, it just feels too much. It's not even in the parish of Knaresborough, it's not in the constituency. It feels wrong. It's in a rural area. There's no point in objecting to Vance Farm, however, because the tractors are already on site and the houses are being built. However, I do put down a marker and say that I do disagree strongly with Highfield Farm. That should not be going ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Marsh, I think, is next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I can reflect what Councillor Willoughby's had to say. I sat on the planning committee when we haven't had the local plan, and we've had to and been forced into agreeing to developments that otherwise we would never really have accepted. And because we haven't had a 5-year land supply, we've been pushed into also looking at areas that we would never have looked at. And so I think we do need to get that protection around us. However, I just want to express my disappointment that during the local plan that we didn't find the right site for the gypsy site allocation, and I will say that, and I attended the inquiry saying that it's the wrong site, and it will cause upset within the settled community, and I think that was the wrong decision taken. But can I say, it reflects back to almost the amendment, Mr Mayor, but if we had properly debated this, maybe half of this would not be now being said. Thank you.
Councillor Broadbent.
Yes, Mr. I'm disappointed that several sites that I recorded as objecting to the December 17 meeting when the plan was referred to the inspector are still in the plan, and unfortunately because those sites are in there, they were obviously in the Kingsley area, but they're immediately next to the area in Starbeck. And it's going to have a major impact on the area, particularly in the Bogs Lane, Kingsley Road area. I understand all the issues and problems the council has got in not having, if they don't have a local plan in place, I understand that. I also know the greater likelihood of government intervention and presumption in favour of sustainable development if we don't have a local plan in place. Comments, I was a bit taken back by the comment Councillor Burnett saying that people have ignored the development issues for decades. I can recall a local plan that we put forward, 8,000 homes, and what we got repeatedly was concrete council in our leaflets because we were apparently overdeveloping the district, even though we were trying to provide the homes the district needed. And it obviously had some impact, that phrase. But now, of course, we're talking about 13,000 plus for the next 15 years. The 8,000 that we had was 15 years, 13,000 15 years. And in fact, I also remember a leaflet going around in 2012, actually posting that Harrogate Council was now building the lowest number of houses in the district for decades, and that was a wonderful thing. But, you know, times move on, and we clearly have been instructed by government and inspectors now to build, and various sites have come up. But this particular, I cannot vote for the plan with the sites in the Kingsley area and the impact it will make on my ward. So because of the impact on of the potential development on the adjoining area to my ward, I won't be able to support the plan today.
Thank you very much. Could I have Councillor Marriott? Sorry, I forgot your name then for a minute.
That's all right, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Rebecca and the team for their work in putting the local plan together. The task has not been an easy one, and as we've seen, emotions have run high and some disagreements have been irreconcilable. Throughout the process, Rebecca and her officers have responded to representations calmly, respectfully, and using reasoned arguments. And I'm very grateful for the hard work on this issue. Like many other members, I've contacted Rebecca and the team about sites about which I'm concerned. In particular, I view the site H22, the nearby Kingsley Drive developments, and the Dragon Road site H63 as undesirable. In an ideal world, these sites would not be in the plan. But we do need a local plan, and we need a local plan now. We have seen over the past years what happens when home building across the district is developer-led. If we reject this plan today, or submit amendments that bring the plan down, we run the risk of developers again having a whip hand. Good work our officers have done would be wasted, and homes would still be built across the district, perhaps in sites which are not even in consideration for this plan. Indeed, work done by officers to find the most suitable and appropriate sites for development may well be used by developers in order to get developments through quicker than they would be anyway. It is natural that we each do not want homes to be built near our own area. We are going to get those homes with or without this local plan. I think it is better to have control over development through the local plan rather than to cede greater control to developers. We will know where the homes are going, and we and other organisations will be able to plan for that growth. Simply put, I think a vote against this plan is a vote for developer-led growth for a period which we do not know. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be voting in favour of this plan tonight, having sort of been involved with the plan over very many years. It seems to have taken up a great deal of my council life, and I think probably only councillors like Councillor Sims and Councillor March have done as much on this. At one time I was the cabinet member for planning for a short time, and for a few years I chaired the District Development Committee, and I found that a very helpful committee in putting together the plan we have before us tonight. I'm not happy with everything in the plan. There are still areas west of Harrogate that I have great concerns about developing. But in the interest of getting this council to be back in control of local development, I think it's important that we put aside our individual concerns and vote as a whole to get this plan through, so that we can then start again, so that we will be able to get better development that is appropriate. I would also like to say that it's many years, I can't remember how many years, Nigel might, but Pat might, that we've been involved with this plan. And I'd like to think that we've had very good debates on the issues here, and we certainly did at District Development, and we have in full council. And I think it's been conducted in an appropriate way. And while people are not happy with some of the issues, I think we've got a plan that we can approve tonight. And in saying that, can I pay tribute to the professional staff of this council, who have had an enormous task to bring together this plan and take into account the views of everyone. I've seen officers working for a cabinet member when I was a cabinet member for a short time on planning, and the amount of work they did in supporting the District Development Committee and the other councillors. We have had very high quality advice and guidance from our officers. And I think tonight, when we approve this plan, which I hope we will, that we do pay tribute to the skills, dedication and the hard work of our professional staff.
Councillor Lyons.
Thank you. I very definitely agree with Councillor Willoughby in terms of what's happened to Knaresborough, and in terms of what Councillor Myatt said regarding the need to have a local plan. Knaresborough has been ravaged by development, but we have definite proof in relation to what can happen when you do have a plan in relation to the Bar Lane development in Knaresborough, which was initially approved and subsequently refused, and the appeal results have come through this week that development will not happen. This was on land which was not an allocated site, but which was being speculatively developed by Gladmans, who have lost at appeal. And it was because of the emerging local plan that this has happened. What I would ask that members of the planning committee would do in relation to sites that are in there, and we all have sites that we don't like. Mine is K24 in Knaresborough, which has already come to planning and been rejected because the developer was trying to put 218 homes on a 148 home allocation. That the planning committee bear these allocations in mind and make sure that there is no further speculation beyond what the plan provides for. I will be supporting the plan, and I would urge members to do the same.
Councillor Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the councillor for the Kingsley ward, I would like to launch my objection to what I believe is a potentially excessive development in that ward. Having said that, to me it's plain that we're better to have a plan than no plan, and therefore I will be supporting the plan itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rasmus.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As of all other members, I'm sure we all have sites in our wards that we're concerned about, but I have a particularly large area to cover with county, and I had at one point all 3 settlements in my ward. But I still feel we need a local plan, but the issue is around the settlement for me. I'm not sure that the settlement is deliverable and that we actually need it, but we'll see what happens with this. And on this point, I have lobbied Councillor Burnett and have been assured that all the parish councils in the ward and the Keep Hamilton Green group will be continue to be involved in the preparation of the new settlement DPD. After speaking to the Cabinet Member for Planning about the process from here on, the DPD, I understand that the next step will be to develop a programme of community and stakeholder involvement. I will ensure the groups in my ward are not just participants in the process, but are partners in taking this forward and have meaningful input into this process. Thank you.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a rural member for the Deep Valley Ward, I do have great concerns about the lack of affordable housing for our young families to live in the Dale. We have a thriving industrial estate in the middle of the Dale. People having to travel in from York, Leeds and the outskirts of Otley does concern me about the carbon footprint. We have a shortage of houses for young people who are in need of being housed locally. The other thing is, yes, we do need a local plan, I agree with that. The problem is that with sites being taken out of the Nidderdale ONB area, you have the village halls, the parish councils, and all the 106 money is virtually going to disappear because we're going to have very, very little development. And not only that, we look further up the Dale to the town of Pater Bridge, where there will be a reduction in houses, sites taken out. So, as I say, just reminding members, I do have a concern that we probably haven't got it right here because it's the young people that are going to suffer here because we are an elderly population in the Dales. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also support the local plan and will be voting for it. I just wanted to say that I disagree with employment allocation PM 18, which is in my ward of Panel. This allocation is in the special landscape area of the Crimple Valley, and it will substantially close the gap between Panel and South Harrogate. I would like my objection to this site to be noted, please. Nonetheless, I think the local plan as a whole is sound. I'm going to be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Swift.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I am very conscious of what happens to a council that does not have a plan. I live on a lane, single lane traffic with 8 homes, which without a plan suddenly is now 658 homes. So I do understand the impact of building close to one's home when you're not necessarily expecting it. A further 463 homes have been built in the vicinity. So without a plan, we open the world to a developer's free-for-all. And therefore I will be supporting the need and necessity to approve this plan. But better than that, I will be voting to approve this plan. because this plan has brought forward a series of essential evidence-based criteria that reflect the fact that the United Kingdom, and Harrogate particularly, is undergoing great change. Over the last 15 years, the growth of the United Kingdom has been something around 0.6 and 0.8% per annum. We're now reaching 67 million people. The population growth has been enormous, and one of the problems of creating a district that is truly a great place to live and work and visit is that many people want to live and work here. And as a result of that, we have housing shortages. Councillor Burnett spoke about the lack of and the affordability of housing, the need to re-enfranchise our youth and ensure people can live and work in the area. I also believe in my economic development hat that as I've gone around and met some, perhaps not enough, about 10,000 businesses in this district, that we are continually inundated with two major problems. The first is that businesses cannot find space in which to grow. Many of these startups and small businesses need to grow and leave the district because they need more space. Therefore, I'm delighted that there is employment allocations in this plan because it's essential for business growth for these many startups that we have in the district. But even more importantly than that, the businesses that we have in play today, one of their single largest complaints is the ability to recruit local staff. They end up fishing for employment of staff a long, long way away, causing economic footprints that are not in mode of the society in which we want to live. And this plan enables people to get back into living and working close to each other. Councillor Burnett alluded to a generalisation. It isn't a generalisation. There are 16,000 people going to Leeds and beyond for wealthy work, and there are 16,000 less wealthy people travelling in to do many of our jobs because they cannot afford to live in this area. This council itself has shortages of low-paid staff. Our refuse collectors and workers in these sorts of jobs are often coming in from a long way away to do these jobs, and even then they're saying to themselves, is it economic to come all that way for a 17, 18, 19,000 pound role? And as a result, this plan addresses many of those things. I would like to point out one last thing, Mr. Mayor, before closing, and that is that I really do believe that our rural areas are under serious stress. And I appreciate the need for individuals to protect what they have today. But there is a reality that if you go on to some of these rural villages, Ofsted schools are failing to recruit because the numbers are in decline. There is no ambition to teach in some of these areas. The society is losing out on its pubs and its communities and its buses, and there is a real shortage of community-based activity, which I believe some of this development will actually enhance. If I use one particular example, in primary school education, several of these junior schools have years 5 and 6 or 3 and 4 combined to make a class because there are not sufficient young children to actually fill the classroom. And whilst that isn't the case in every single village, it's clearly stated on several of these Ofsted reports, including close to our own town centre, Killingworth is an example of where that is going on. And if a children's team can't put a football team, a boys' team or a girls' team, and in some cases they can't even put a mixed team in, then this is a great shame. Finally, Mr. Mayor, I'm really encouraged by the fact this development plan has been put forward by Councillor Burnett, who over this period of time, contrary to the concept of debate, has been extremely open to challenge, given up enormous amount of time to address concerns and queries, not just from me, but I think all of the councillors. At times that's also along with our officers as well, have been extremely patient. It's worth stating that some councillors, perhaps myself too, have been incredibly emotive at times on these issues and pushed our luck on debating these issues, and officers and councillors have been extremely tolerant of those issues, and I think that should be, and I think some people have actually acknowledged that. So thank you very much. I've spoken too long. Appreciate that, and I'm going to support this plan.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting the adoption of the plan. However, in doing so, and also as a Knaresborough councillor, I would also like to register my objections against site K25, the Highfield Farm site. And I also agree with Councillor Pat Marsh that the Gypsy and Traveller site at Cass Lane is the wrong location.
However, despite these objections,